Hello, everyone. Today, I would like to discuss the pressing issue of climate change that's happening in Laos. Um, just to kind of give you guys some information of this region, the current population of the Laos People's Democratic Republic is 7,575,190,000 as of Sunday, May 7, 2013, based on the World Meter elaboration of the latest United Nations data. So, Laos is a really beautiful country that is located in Southeast Asia. It is known for its mountains. It is the home of numerous mountain ranges that make up a very large part of the country's landscape. These mountains are part of the Annamite Range, which extends from Vietnam through Laos and even into Thailand. It's also known for its dense forests. So these forests are really dense and diverse forests that cover over 40% of the country's land area. These forests are also home to a wide variety of plant and animal species, many of which are endemic to the region. Laos is also home to several major rivers, including the Mekong River, which is one of the longest rivers in Asia and plays a very important role in the country's economy and its culture. There are also waterfalls in Laos, and these are actually a couple of pictures of the actual waterfalls that are located there. So there are numerous waterfalls that are popular tourist attractions. Um, I may not be pronouncing it right. They are the Kwangsi Waterfalls and the Tat Phrang Waterfalls. I think I pronounced them. Anyway, Laos is also known for its really diverse and ethnic cultures. So it is home to over 100 different ethnic groups, each of with its own unique language, culture, and traditions. As you can see, that the dominating religion distribution in Laos would be Buddhism or Buddhist. So again, as I mentioned, Buddhism is the dominant religion in Laos, and many of the country's cultural practices and traditions are mainly influenced by Buddhist belief. So if you can kind of tell by the building, a lot of the architecture is inspired by the Buddhism religion. As I mentioned, Laos has a very unique style of traditional architecture that is characterized by wooden houses on stilts, intricate carvings, and very vibrant colors. So, as you can see from the different buildings, they all have a really bright color into them. So, Laos is also known for its breathtaking natural features, as well as its home to its very diverse ecosystem, including the forests, highlands, the rivers. But it is also known for its very cultural features. Um, so as I mentioned, there's over 100 ethnic groups, and it's also home to many beautiful temples and historical landmarks, including the ancient city of Long Prabang, which is actually a World Heritage Site. Um, and there's a lot of celebrations, like festivals that celebrate by different arts of dancing. So as we can see here, uh, they're very big on festivals as well, and it has numerous cultural festivals throughout the year, many of which are actually based on Buddhist traditions and involve colorful processions, music, and dance, as mentioned. So, despite the natural beauty and the cultural beauty, uh, One of the big things is that Laos is very vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. The country actually relies heavily on agriculture and its natural resources, making it like particularly or mainly vulnerable to these extreme weather events such as droughts, floods, and landslides as well. So, as we can see, in 2018, Laos experienced severe flash floods triggered by heavy rains that caused widespread destruction and displacement of people. The floods affected 13 provinces and resulted in over 40 deaths. The landslides are really common in Laos, especially during the rainy season. So, in 2020, a major landslide occurred in the province of Zepan, causing several deaths and significant damage to infrastructure. So these events have become more frequent and severe in recent years in Laos, and the way they've been impacting Laos is by the country's food security, its water resources, and of course, as I mentioned, the infrastructure. So it's really highlighting a major and urgent need to address climate change and its impacts on vulnerable countries, such as itself. So, uh, the impacts of climate change on the people and the environment is already having significant impacts on people and environment and the environment. So, for example, changes in rainfall patterns have led to droughts and decreased agricultural productivity, um, which in turn led to food shortages and increased poverty. So, as we can see, climate change has exacerbated existing problems such as poverty and inequality by affecting agricultural production, public health, natural disasters, and migration. So, these impacts have a very large effect on vulnerable communities, especially that further those inequality or those access to resources or that lack of resources increases. So it's really important to address climate change as a critical component of efforts to reduce poverty and promote equality. Just having a fair access to these really important resources. Um, So, as I mentioned, extreme events have also caused damage to infrastructure, such as the roads, bridges, making it even more difficult for people to access other things like healthcare, education, and really just other essential services. Okay, so some of the actions being taken despite these challenges allows us taking steps into mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change. The government is working to increase the country's resilience to climate change by investing in infrastructure and promoting sustainable development practices. So such as things like renewable energy and sustainable tourism. One of the big things is this image that we see here is called the ICS, or the Improved Cook Stoves. So it is a project and is aimed for promoting the use of efficient energy cook stoves that emit less smoke and actually use less wood than its traditional stoves in Laos. This project has not only reduced greenhouse gas emissions, but has also improved air quality and healthy outcomes for the population. So the ICES project has been implemented by a number of organizations, including the Laos Women's Union and the World Wildlife Fund. So there are also community-based organizations that are working towards raising awareness about climate change and implementing adaptation strategies, such as planting drought-resistant crops and building flood-resistant housing. So sustainable agriculture projects in Laos are aiming to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by promoting these practices, such as like conservation farming. Um, So conservation farming actually uses fewer chemicals and improves soil health as well for better crop growing. And these projects also help farmers, resilience to climate change by improving training on climate smart agricultural practices and promoting the use of drought tolerant crops. Another big thing would be renewable energy. This one's really interesting. So, Laos has a really significant potential for hydropower and other renewable energy resources. Several of the initiatives, such as the Nam Theun 2 hydropower project, which is the image that we see here, have been implemented to promote the development of renewable energy in Laos. So, the project is a large hydropower dam that generates energy for export and has provided significant revenue for social and environmental programs in the region. Another great thing is forest conservation. So forest conservation projects in Laos that aim to reduce deforestation and promote sustainable forest management. These projects, as you see in the image, are community based. So the projects work with local communities to develop sustainable livelihoods and are compatible with forest conservation. So one of the main examples is the community-based forest management, or the CBFM project, which has been implemented by the Lao government with support from international organizations such as the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. So in all these, excuse me, in all these initiatives and these projects demonstrate that there are effective ways to address climate change in Laos by promoting sustainable agricultural, renewable energy, and forest conservation, as well as providing support for vulnerable communities. So here we see that Laos can definitely build a more resilient and sustainable future. Some of the unique challenges and opportunities, however, Laos faced is addressing climate change. So, for example, the country's dependence on agricultural and hydropower makes it pretty difficult to transition to those lower carbon alternatives. While limited, while having limited financials and technical resources make it even more difficult to implement these large scale climate adaptations and projects that are being funded. But at the same time, Laos actually has really great potential to maintain a sustainable tourism and renewable energy development. So ultimately, there is a call to action. So I personally believe that it is up to all of us to take action to address climate change in Laos and beyond. So not just Laos. So the way we can do this is by reducing our own carbon footprint, advocating for policies that address climate change, and supporting the efforts of the people of Laos. By doing this, I believe that we can help build a more sustainable and resilient future for all. Um, so this is pretty much it. And I just want to say thank you for listening. And I hope that this presentation has inspired you to take action. Thank you.